Welcome to Rewiring Health. This podcast is for those of you who have an eating disorder, chronic pain, or both. In this channel, we'll dive deep into inspirational stories of those who have healed from both, and also get into the mind-body connection and how we can heal the mind through the body, and also heal the body through the mind. Come and join me on this journey. If you've ever been curious about the power of the mind, or you feel like you're stuck in a rut and life just seems to repeat itself, you're going to want to listen to this episode. In it, I had the honor of speaking with Brent Webb. Brent Webb is an acclaimed mind power expert and motivational speaker, and has headlined his own programs at hotels, resorts, casinos, cruise ships, and colleges, and has created seminars and training programs for Fortune 500 corporations, including Google, Ford Motor Company, Nabisco, and Hilton Hotels. Brent has worked with superstars like Joan Rivers, Chaka Khan, Sia, Dionne Warwick, Dolly Parton, and Kenny Rogers, and has appeared at the White House twice. He teaches people how to understand the hidden abilities they possess to do more, be more, and have more in every area of their life. For more than 2 decades, Webb has focused his entire agenda around helping people create lives of prosperity, rewarding relationships, and spiritual awareness, and is internationally known for his inspirational and motivational style. Brent has used his own knowledge of human potential and the mind to beat anxiety, drinking, drugs, cancer, and create a multi-million-dollar brand. Welcome to this episode. I hope you enjoy it. All right. So I am so excited to be joined by Brent Webb today. He's an acclaimed mind power expert and a motivational speaker. So thank you so much for joining me.
It is my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I'm super excited about this one because I was just saying I am a huge believer in the power of the mind and how our minds can heal, how our minds can move us, how our minds can transform our lives. So I can't wait to hear your perspective on everything. So if you don't mind, could you just share your story of like how you started out and how it brought you to where you are today?
Sure. So I was a little chubby kid from Ohio in the Midwest, and only child. And like a lot of kids like that, I gravitated towards magic. When I was a little kid, I was doing little magic tricks and anything to try to, make you different, make you kind of like, So I was always at the library taking out magic books. I was 10 and I ended up grabbing a copy of The Magic of Believing, which isn't a magic book, a magic trick book, but it's all about the power of the mind. And it was just at the perfect time for me in my life. I always, even as a little kid, I had stress, anxiety. I just, it was overwhelming at times. I read that book and it was like, somebody kicked a hole through the wall and I saw a whole new universe out there than what I thought. Yeah. So I really started from there. I've always been obsessed with human potential. Why, you take two brothers, one is bankrupt and drunk and one is a multi-billionaire. How does that happen? Yeah. So I moved away from magic very young, but I still love being on stage. So I just kind of found a way to mix the message with a little bit of entertainment because, motivational speakers just talk no matter how good they are. They talk, and it's after a while, some people have that, I'm going to, I'll just tune you out. It's like I'm being preached to. So this way, they're getting this amazing message, and it's almost hidden for some of the people, but they're still getting it. So yeah. I started at 18. I met Don Rickles, the comedian. Oh my gosh,
how cool is that?
And I started working with him, and he introduced me to Joan Rivers, and I did a whole decade of like an opening act for other entertainers. But really, right before COVID, actually, I'm all over the world, teaching millionaires, billionaires, professional sports teams, athletes, celebrities, all about the mind. And I'm thinking, these are the wrong people. I'm teaching the wrong people. They have this knowledge. They're kind of where they want to be. It's the masses that need it. So I kind of shifted focus there. And I've really just been doing this, going everywhere I can, getting the message out about the mind. It's in you. Everything you want is inside. You've got to go in, not out. So, it's just mindset. Everything is mindset.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So much everything you said. I just love that because I have lived it. I have experienced where I was in a bad place and had a poor mindset, and I've completely transformed it and has transformed my life. So I am like, you're Preaching to the choir here. I absolutely love that. And I love too that you're now serving the masses, because what better time than now to
Right?
do that? I mean, there are so many people who just feel hopeless and feel like the world is against them and they don't know what to do. And it's like the more you focus on that, the more you draw that into your life. So
Absolutely.
we need this more than ever. Can you talk about, I know a big part of it is like the subconscious mind versus the conscious mind. How does that play a role in what our lives transform to be?
Well, what I tell everyone is most people don't understand when we're children, it's like we've got a tape running up there, like somebody's turned a tape recorder on, right? And the first 8, 9 years, we're recording everything. And it's kind of when we're programmed. Because you think back to when you're a kid, everything's amazing. You can go outside with a stick and a box and you can play all day long, right? You've got this amazing imagination and your emotions are on your sleeve. When you're sad, you cry. When you're happy, you laugh. I mean, everything is right when you're a kid. You don't have even when you're born, you don't have a name, usually a religion. You're not racist, homophobic, none of that, right? It's programmed into us. So the thing that's scary about that is, so you're 8 years old, you're 6 years old, you're not logical, you're not mature, you're making decisions. And now, anytime we go on autopilot, which is like 80% of the time, that is the old rusty tape that's running. It's that tape we made when we were kids. And then we're wondering why our lives are in such horrible shape. You know, we don't realize we can get in there, we can change that around. But some people go through their entire lives, it's like they're in a tunnel. They're born, they die, they never realize there's anything else. Yeah. They don't realize you're born with this, really the most amazing supercomputer ever invented, right? They don't give you a manual to tell you how to operate it. You get a manual with your iPhone, with your toaster, with your mic, everything, right? And you've got this device inside you, and just learn how to do it yourself. You're even when you're in school, the teacher will say, hey, focus, you need to focus. How do you do that? Nobody ever taught me how to do that, right? You just assume we all know. So it just comes back to the programming. Those first 8 years were programmed. They don't want us to be open thinkers. They want us to fit into a cog somewhere, do a job that's good for society, and that's how it is. So when you look and see there's something going on more than you realize, it kind of opens up a whole new universe, right?
Oh, totally. And it's what you're talking about with the computer. It's so funny. Like our phone says you need to update, and we're so quick to update the phone,
Right.
but here we have our brain. We're like, we're good. I'll just keep the same software for 30, 40, 50 years. No problem.
Right.
It's so funny. We treat our phones better than we treat ourselves.
Yeah,
So
it's for sure.
So true. When we talk about literally the programming we have in our childhood and it's running in the background, a lot of us are not even aware of that. How do we begin to become first aware, and then second, how do we start to change the dialogue?
Well, the first thing is exactly what you just said. It's awareness. The trick to beginning, because a lot of people, they think, okay, I'm going to have to monitor my thoughts. You have 60,000 thoughts a day. That is impossible. So people right away, they've already set themselves up for failure. All you've got to really do to begin is start to become aware of what's going on up there. You've got this voice talking inside your head, okay? You can force that voice to talk. In other words, if you're doing some kind of task, you can make it talk and say what you need it to say. But then there's what I call the bitchy roommate voice, which is the voice that narrates your life and tells you how horrible you are. This is never going to work. Remember when you did this? And it's all this horrible stuff. And it's starting to realize what's going on up there. So what I always tell people, a great way to start, you get a Post-it note, right? You draw a flower or a happy face or something on it. You stick it on your wall, by your desk, on the fridge, something. Anytime you walk by that and you see it, it's your time to stop and just see what's on your mind. Write it down even, because you'll start to realize it is almost all negative. The thoughts that are running when you're not paying attention, it's all horrible. This is never going to work out. It's all about either the things you could have done. If I'd done this, this would have happened and I wouldn't be in this position, or all the horrible things that are going to happen, right? And it's not what's happening now, which is the only time that matters, because this is our entry point to fix things, is this moment, right? The past doesn't exist. When it was here, it was now. The future, it'll be now when it's here, right? But everyone is always chasing something, and they're putting their kind of it's like you're putting your happiness in this next moment. The payoff is going to be in the next moment. So you're constantly chasing it and you never get it. Right. So it's becoming aware. You see that post-it note, what's on my mind? You write it down. After a week of that, you're going to see just the useless, horrible crap that this voice is saying. Okay. If you had a real person living in your house saying that stuff, they'd be gone in a day.
Yep.
Yet you have this person inside your head that you can't get rid of, and they're narrating your entire life negatively. So bring awareness to it. Anything you can do to bring awareness. What happens is you've got this tape, like I said, but you can put little breaks in that tape. Every time you bring some awareness, you release something. There's a tiny bit of a break there. The more and more that happens, what will start to happen is next time something unfolds that's dramatic, or that's you would have normally pulled you into some sort of emotional drama, you will almost go in slow motion, and it will happen. But before you get sucked into the emotion, the drama, you're in this power position, because now you're not emotionally connected. You can look at the situation, you can kind of deal with it, right? But you're not sucked into it, because the problem is that happens in maybe an hour, a week, a month before you even realize you've been pulled in. So awareness is everything. A lot of things will work themselves through. You don't have to go back and think of all the horrible things that I got to work through, every breakup, and then you're going to go back and you don't have to do that. All you've got to do is, when you start bringing awareness, some things will just start to disappear by themselves, just by being drug into the light. You weren't mature when all this stuff was created. Now you're looking at it and going, what the hell is this doing here? It will just leave, but you've got to be aware of it. Otherwise, you're just kind of walking through your life completely sleepwalking while this program's running inside.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I love the cues that you talk about, like using the post-it note to have that visual cue to bring awareness to that. Because again, you could easily go through your day just continuing on with that, be like, oh, I should have been aware. But to have those visual cues, it is that moment of pause, which I love that you talk about.
Yeah.
And then with would you say it's like a compound effect? Like once you start bringing awareness, is it like every little thing just compounds and then it gets easier? Or is that kind of how it works with the brain?
For sure.
Yeah.
Because remember, everything that the person you are now is created by, the biggest thing we've got is repetition. And the problem is, it's all this negative stuff we've been repeating over and over and over again. So you've got to break that. So repetition of the right things will over time give you more and more and more space. It's like when you go to bed at night, don't be thinking about all the bad stuff that happened, what you're worried about tomorrow, because what you're doing then is you're just continuing. If it was a bad day into it, just there's no break. It's one long continuous bad day. The last thing you need to be thinking about at night is a bunch of negative stuff. You want to be thinking about what it is that you want, where you want to be in life, and kind of see yourself there, and affirmations, whatever you can do. When you're going between sleep and awake, you're in that gray area. You have a really good shot of getting to the subconscious. It's the first thing in the morning, last thing at night. So what you say to yourself, especially, is so important. That's why affirmations, I have a morning routine, evening routine. It's important. People think, oh, it's new agey and it's like woohoo, but meditation, you can't get there without finding that silence somehow. And the meditation is really the best way, so anything you can do for yourself. Everybody is always helping everyone else, and they're worried about their family, but you can't pour from an empty cup. Like they say, you've got to take care of yourself. It's not greedy or being selfish. It's absolutely necessary,
Yeah. And absolutely, bookending the day is so important. I implement that in my own life. It's been a game changer. So it really makes a huge difference. And when you talk about the negativity, that's how our brains are wired, because it's supposed to protect us. Our brain is protecting us. So it's literally doing its job. So it's going to just continue down that path until you make it do something else. So that's amazing. I think one thing that I've seen with the people I work with is not having the belief in it. So how big is it when people don't believe in the process? Like they are skeptical, or there's just a lack of belief around it. How much does that impact doing this?
Honestly, belief is almost everything. Now, some people you will see, you see people there's a big difference between being self-confident, being selfish. You can have somebody who shouldn't have self-confidence because, but they really do. Okay. Yeah. They're in some kind of, but there's a difference, you have to believe though, that first of all, you deserve what it is you want, that you can have it, that, if you've been put as a child, been told, oh, you're not good enough, you're too this, you're too that, money is only for bad people, all of the stuff, if you've been unlucky enough to be around that as a kid, you've got to fight that now in your life, because that voice that you've got running up there, like you said, it's just really the past. It's telling you what you're looking at is similar to something in the past. It used to be fight or flight. You walk outside, there's a tiger. What do we do? Now it's you walk outside. Are people looking at me? Do I look okay today? Is she going to hate what I'm wearing? That's what we've done with this amazing gift. We've turned it into this just neurotic voice, right? So again, mindset is everything. So belief is important. You have to have, it doesn't have to be a delusional. People say, okay, if I believe if a 500-pound woman believes she can be Miss America, is that possible? No, because there is no way, I don't care how delusional, that woman believes that completely. It's just not possible. A 3-foot man isn't going to be a star in the NBA, and he knows that. So that's always going to be against him. But most people, they don't think they deserve a better job. They deserve the money that the new car, those kind of things, that it's for someone else. It's not for me, it's for someone else. So belief, that's what the magic of believing is all about. That book that I read was all about belief, talking yourself into it, believing to the point of, instead of worrying about what you want as in the future, what you're doing is you're believing that you already have it now. So that you can get in the space of what if I want $1 million, right? What would it feel like if I was a millionaire? What would it feel like if this happened? And you kind of put yourself in that state as much as possible, because things will start to rearrange kind of to make that happen. And like I said, I met Don Rickles when he introduced me to Joan Rivers. She said, "Have you ever read The Magic of Believing?" And I said, "Oh my God, that I told her the story." She had a copy of the book, changed her life. She took me once to meet Phyllis Diller, another famous comedian. Her whole career, she bases on that book. She said, I was a 40-year-old single mother. People said I wasn't funny. I read that book for 2 years. I underlined it. I put it to use in my life. And she said it transformed everything. So she was a 90-year-old woman still pushing a book she read 50 years before, because she really believed in the message, and like I said, I worked with Joan. She had a trick where she would put on in her mind like an invisibility cloak. So if somebody said some negative stuff to her, in her head, she would put this cloak on and it would just bounce. Anything they say would bounce off of her. And people hear that and they go, again, oh, it's just, oh, how stupid. That's just some new age thing. But it's not. If you can, your mind doesn't know if you're doing it or if you're just thinking about doing it, right? So as long as you've got your mind on your side, screw everybody else, because you're in a really powerful position, because you have your power there,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it's so true. The mind can't differentiate between reality and what you put into it. So
right?
It's going to react, and physically it reacts too. If you think about something being really fearful, you will start sweating, your heart will start racing. You literally will manifest that physically. And as you were talking, it reminds me of the book Think and Grow Rich. Have you read that? Yeah. I mean, it sounds very familiar to that, in that he talks about sitting in a room with all the people that you want to become, all your visions, and you're sitting in this room and you're having a conference with them. And what are they saying? How are they acting around you, and making it as real as possible? And it's just fascinating when we can make this as real and apply emotion to it. It's phenomenal. So when we talk about, implementing it, because action is a big thing. When we change anything in our life, we have to take action, because that's the only way we can move forward. Beyond the post-it notes and bringing awareness, what else would someone do to kind of take action towards moving their subconscious in a more position that serves them?
Well, action is important. It's the step that's missing. And when everyone tries this, especially if they watch a movie like The Secret or they read that book about the law of attraction, the book was a fantastic piece of marketing, right? But they skip over the most important part, which is the action step. You can't, sit on your sofa, wish for a Ferrari, and hope it's going to appear in your driveway. The step that's missing is the believing it and the going into that, right? And then things will start to happen. Doors will open and things will happen. So you've got to start, even if it's a tiny step, moving towards your goals. And if you don't have goals anymore, then you need to get them again. Because some people, I'm too old. I have a client who is a retired, 75-year-old woman who has a completely new lease on life. She's doing all the things she wished she would have done before. So it's never too late. You just have to, again, become aware. So you're going through your daily life. bring awareness to what is on your mind. And like we said, things will start to happen automatically. The more and more that happens, and the more things you release, then something will come up that bothers you. Because now it's hard for me, because I've worked through so much stuff, right? But if something comes up, I look at that as a gift. That's a red flag. That's a sign, because that's something I need to work on, right? And when you get rid of that, the emotion that you've tied to that feeling will go. So now, like, you see your ex-girlfriend's car and you had a bad breakup. So now every time you see the car, you get sick in the stomach, because you've connected the memory, right? When you start disconnecting those things, now you can see all the red pickups in the world. It's not going to trigger that. So again, it's just taking some time out of your day to be aware. Set an alarm, set a random alarm. Don't even look. I've done that before. Spin the alarm dials around and set a random alarm. And when that thing goes off, sit down and write a page of gratitude. Write a page of what's on your mind. Because you've almost got to trick it, your subconscious, because it doesn't want to be trained. This thing is used to doing whatever it wants, having the rule of the house, and it doesn't want you to train it. So it's going to throw everything it can. This is stupid. This is boring. When you're meditating, oh, my legs hurt, my back hurt. You got to just keep pushing forward. Any progress is success. It doesn't matter. Like, literally an inch progress in the right direction, you're still successful.
Yeah. And I talk about that. It's uncomfortable. It's going to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I like that you say that, because if we expect this to be easy, then we're probably not doing it right. Like, anything that creates growth in your life is uncomfortable.
Right.
So we have to move into that and lean into it, even though there's a lot of things that are holding us back. And again, the brain wants to be efficient. It knows it for 20 years. It's going to stay that way. It doesn't do anything different. Yeah. Can you kind of talk about one thing? I mean, I work with people who have chronic pain, and they get into this cycle again, where they don't believe that healing is possible. And this is, again, they've lived with a lot of maybe trauma or pain for so many years, and they feel like this is how they're going to live forever. Can you kind of talk about, if you've lived with something for 20, 30 years, you feel like you've tried everything, how you can transition your mindset to now feel like it is possible to actually heal in that way? Because the big thing with chronic pain is brain rewiring.
Yeah. And especially because I've been through all that. I mean, I have been through cancer and, addiction to pain medicine, from surgeries and things like that. And same thing, in tremendous pain. But of course, your mind is rewired. The need for the drug too is in there, like the withdrawal from that. Absolutely. So the placebo effect would not be as real as it is if it wasn't true. When you give three groups of patients medicines, and one is a sugar pill that doesn't do anything, but they're convinced it's the pill, and they all are healed the same way, that's complete proof, really, right? Because how is that even possible? So they have to, if they can't find someone they can trust to believe, which is really if somebody says, look, it changed my life, this happened, here I am when I couldn't walk, that's one way. Or you just take a leap of faith and you go, okay, I'm 30, I'm 50, I'm 60, and my life up to this point, it isn't where I want it to be. It hasn't been working. I'm going to take a leap of faith that these other people, it's worked for them. I can see success stories. I'm going to try. That's all. You don't have to, have 100% belief immediately, but you can't write it off. Every time you have a bad pain or a bad day, you have to give yourself, just give yourself a month and say, look, I'm going to work on this, and write down on day 1 how you feel, everything else, write down on day 10, whatever. And on the last day, if you feel better or equal to the first day without medicines or whatever, you are being successful. It's going to take a while, because like you said, this mind has been created over time, repetition. So in order to get in there, you've got to feel uncomfortable. I mean, again, that's your sign that it's working, that you're in the right area. Because otherwise, people are so used to all these instant gratification pleasures now, Netflix on demand and food that comes to the door. It's like, we don't want any uncomfortableness in our life, but you can't move that way. No, you can't go up in your career. You can't do anything. So if you look at a little bit of pain, and I don't mean, just a little bit of uncomfortableness as a good thing, it starts to change. Again, it's all perception, but if you talk yourself into that, do some quiet spend 10 minutes and sit down quietly and talk to yourself. Who does? I mean, nobody does that.
No. Mm-mm.
But you need to, because
Yeah.
how long has it been since you've connected to yourself, right?
Yeah. Oh, totally. And it's only getting worse. I mean, we look at social media, how many hours I just was listening to a podcast. I was like blown away by it. I think they were saying like the average amount of time people are spending on social media is like 3 or 4 hours a day. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
it's ridiculous.
holy, and that's just a lot of that is mind numbing. I mean, you're just numbing your mind. You're getting away from reality. So you're not dealing with anything. You're just kind of, it's escapism in a poor form of escapism. And so that plays a huge role. And I mean, from my experience and how I've worked towards changing my mindset on things, I find that momentum follows action. And once you take action, you get one little foothold and then you want to continue.
Exactly.
And that's what I found in my journey. Even though it's uncomfortable, it's like, I can't go back. I don't want to go back, and you do kind of get into a groove where even though it's uncomfortable, it's the right path for you. And it just, something about it feels authentically right, where you feel like this is what how we're meant to live. Like I genuinely don't believe we're meant to live in a place where we're fearful all the time of the world coming down on us and, constant, I mean, it's everything the news is feeding us that we're not enough and we never will be enough. We will never be successful. We just have to continue to follow what people are telling us to do. And that's such a huge part. With the news, what would you recommend? Because the news is like, I mean, I have cut it out of my life and I've been much better for doing that. But what do you say to somebody who maybe is inundated by negativity around them and in their environment?
Well, it's programming. Again, you're still being programmed. You're being programmed by, when you're a kid, you're programmed by I mean, if you go back and look when I was a kid and it was, Saturday morning cartoons, there was back in the day, there was Congress was looking into toy companies using the advertising during the cartoon to get kids to buy. Okay. But imagine what it is today. Kids on TikTok. I mean, this programming is insidious because it's, good looking people. You don't know they've taken 5 hours to get this picture ready. Right. So you've bought into this. So it's a programming thing. So as far as the news, I don't watch the news either. Mm-hmm. I will look occasionally at just like a list of headlines, but I very rarely go into anything because again, it's always slanted one way or another, but it's what they say, if it bleeds, it leads. Mm-hmm. That's the stories that are murder and the most horrendous things are always on the news. You never hear anything about the good things that are happening, Yeah. And that's for a reason. And nobody buys a newspaper that's got on the front, a train wreck. They want that, right? But somebody saving a bus full of nuns, they could care less about it. Yes. So the only thing you can do is start cutting the news out of your life. Some people say, okay, you've got Fox on one side, you've got maybe CNN on the other, but it doesn't matter. It's two wings of the same bird, really, So it's better to just get rid of it completely, just like you did, and take that time that you're being programmed by somebody else and program yourself with whatever it is you want to learn. Stop we're letting other people force feed us what we need to look like, what our religion needs to be, who we need to date. It's just on and on and on. Mm-hmm. So just get rid of any negativity. Somebody walks up to you, I call them energy vampires, and they say, how are you? And you say, I'm great. How are you? And they go, oh God. And then they tell you this long story, right? By the time you're ready to leave, you've got all your energy drained out of you. Mm-hmm. You only have so much life force every day. So you got to be very careful. It's like gold to give this away to somebody who's going to squander it. So now in that sort of situation, somebody walks up to you, you're on the street and it's somebody does that. And they say, how are you? I'm great. How are you? Well, I'm so sorry, but I gotta go, you got to get out of the situation. Yeah. You can't be a glutton for punishment. You have to look for yourself, the people around that you care about first, and if there's a lot of negativity around you, some people, you got to make changes. It might be family. I'm not saying, cut them out of your life completely, but if you've got a parent or somebody who is just that devil on your shoulder, you've got to do something, because until you break away from that, you're never going to have the wherewithal to make the changes you need to make.
Mm-hmm. Oh, totally. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Everything you said. Yes, it's completely. The big thing is that, again, our most precious assets are our time and our energy. So why would we squander them? That is, it's like if someone was robbing your bank account, you would cut them off real fast, So it's like, why are we allowing this to happen in our lives? and they're limited resources. Time we know is limited, but energy, again, very limited. We can only create so much energy until we get to a place where creating it is kind of not available to us anymore. So
and two,
yeah.
energy, that when you release something, okay, we have so much life force, but when you're holding something in, you're repelling it away. I don't want to think about this. When somebody says, don't say that to me, you're getting, you're getting close to my stuff, which means you're getting close to something that bothers me, right? But when that releases, that energy comes back. That willpower you've used all those years to hold that in, and I don't care how much of it is, and for the big things, it's going to be more, but every little bit comes back to you. And then what you do, every successful person I've ever met, and I mean, I'm talking tech billionaires, sports stars, they know this. What they do is they work through something, they get the life force back, and then they direct it to where it matters, what they're working on now. They take it and they focus it. That's how you do it. You release something, the energy comes back to you. You don't squander it, because we know how precious it is. You take it and you divert it to where it matters. And you keep doing that little by little, and things will change. All you've got to do is go along for the journey. It's going to work itself through. You've got this amazing machine. Give it some time to work through. It'll do it for you, but you've got to kind of leave it alone. You can't you order something from Amazon. You don't call every day and say, where's my package? Right? You can't go, is it working? Is it working? Is it working? Yep. You can't. You got to believe it and let it go. Release it, believe it, release it, and let it go.
Yep. It's like reap and sow, reap and sow.
Yeah.
It's like we don't plant our crops yet today and expect them tomorrow. That'd be crazy. So
exactly.
100%. Going off of that life force, do you believe that we're all connected? Like our energy is connected to one another, that we can literally, like, who we surround ourselves with, even if they're not explicitly negative, but they think negatively, does that affect how we essentially talk to ourselves?
Oh, of course. I mean,
Yeah.
the people that you surround yourself with, it's like my dad used to say, if you want to be a millionaire, you go find a millionaire. You're not going to go talk to the guy living under the bridge and ask him how to do it. And that's what people do. They take all the internet has done this, especially. It's put everyone on supposedly an equal footing, like a world famous scholar and a guy in his basement with a third grade education somehow are now equal. Their opinion is not equal, right? Yeah. But somehow we've done that. Yeah. So every day I do transcendental meditation, because I still do regular meditation, but when I first started TM, it was to get to that unified field, because I heard so many people and a lot of celebrities I've worked with that say it's the only thing that ever worked for them. And if you believe there's a unified field of consciousness, then getting there puts you in that place where everything that's ever been created, everything that ever will be created, that's where, when he's talking about talking to your future self, sitting at a table full of, if you are in a place where everybody who's ever lived, everybody who's ever going to live is springing from that place, that's how it's possible. So I do 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the evening, and it goes by so fast because you're just repeating a mantra over and over again. But everything that's anything is springing from that unified field. So by turning inward, which is what TM does, most meditations, you're keeping thoughts out, and it's, I'm doing mindfulness and I'm keeping it out. But with this, the mantra, you're going in and you're kind of diving in. And when you hit that, it because it's like a spring or a well, and you feel all this, it's like when you're walking down the street and you find $100 bill, you get all that energy. Where did that come from? It's obviously been in you, right? It's kind of like we've got a spigot in there or whatever, and we need to pull it out. Yeah. So just know that, all of that is real, but you have to believe it. You have to give it, not just, you've got to give it reality almost, because even though it is reality, if you don't believe it, it's not going to work for you, and you're going to say that you're going to be one of those people that's going to blame everyone else. It doesn't work. And because you just don't believe it. Yeah.
It's like giving it a stage to be present.
Yeah.
Almost. Yeah, absolutely. Can you share a story of like one of your most one of the moments, or someone you've worked with that's been like really kind of like that inspirational or like big transformation story, like someone who like maybe was in a really tough place and then you worked with them and they are just crushing it now? Like, do you have one you could share?
Yeah, I have a lot, but the one that is always close to me. So a couple of years ago, about 3 years ago, I do a lot of events and shows, and I'm all over the world.
Mhm.
But so I do a lot of television, and local news or the local talk shows, promoting an event. So I was doing this sort of thing with you on
Mhm.
a TV channel in Cleveland,
Mhm.
and I had an event that next night. So at the end of the event, a lady comes up to me. She was on two canes, not that old, I think maybe in her early 40s. And
Mhm.
she said, I saw you on TV and I knew I had to meet you. Would you talk to me after the show? And I said, sure. So after the program, I went out. Now, this woman had just been diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer, single mother, 4 kids, all under the age of 18.
Oh my
Didn't know
gosh.
what she was, was so
Mhm.
just kind of not, of course you're shocked, but I mean, just hopeless, didn't know what to do. And she said, I saw you and I knew that I needed to talk to you. I knew you would be able to talk to me. So we sat down and I started working with her and working through fear and different things. I explaining to her, no matter what happens, you are fine. It's like you're the driver and there's the car. The car may not be in great shape, but you're going to get out of that car and get into another one anyway at some
Mhm.
point. So stop saying you're sick. You have cancer. You don't. This
Mhm.
vehicle does, but not you. But anyway, so we started working on fears and things. Now, this is probably about 4 years ago now, almost 4 years ago. Not only is she still alive, I mean, she still has the state, she still has it, she's still been fighting it, but her outlook is completely different because the fear is gone.
Mhm.
And so that idea of I am dead, it's hopeless, my kids are going to be,
Mhm.
coming to grips. We're also afraid of death. None of us get out of this thing, but everyone is so afraid to look at the fact that at some point, some of us earlier, some of us later, we're
Mhm.
going to die, right?
Mhm.
But the fear is so overwhelming with that. So anyway, I just talked to her. We did a podcast or a video together just a couple of weeks ago. So she's still fighting it, but
Mhm.
she's in a different headspace completely. She lives her life. She goes and does things. She's still, she's still living. Before, it was like, it's over. They've
Yeah.
stamped me. This is, I have no time left. This is it. And she
Mhm.
really thought, I said, don't ever listen to anyone tell you you've got a month to live, 6 months. It's bullshit,
Mhm.
because all they're giving you is, again, the past, other people. It's not you.
Mhm.
So I mean, I've worked with so many, and that's somebody who is a regular person. It's not a celebrity. It's not an athlete. Because again, the regular people, those are the ones. When somebody writes to you and says, "You change, I was going to kill myself. You've transformed my life," or somebody like her, being on stage and getting all this applause like I used to do is
Mhm.
so hollow. Because
Mhm.
now it's completely different. I'm doing what I did before, but I'm doing it with different, helping different people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's like when you're serving people, that's something that lasts forever. That moment,
yeah,
that feeling, it's like when you're truly doing it in the intent of serving others, that's when it lasts. And
yep,
thank you for sharing that story, because that is going to resonate with so many people, and that there's a lot of people I'm sure that feel that same way. It's like we're so fearful of dying that we're not living. And what a gift to that woman that you allowed her to, now the last 4 years she's been able to live because she's not fearful of dying. And now she has a fighting chance to be, maybe overcome the cancer, be present for her children, do things that she wants to, like really embrace the years that she has, and who knows how long. But
right.
it's so true, like when we go to like medical practitioners and like it's a lot of negative news, we take that as gospel and we believe it and we let it sink in and we don't question that. And that becomes a major issue when we talk about healing. So thank you for sharing that, because that really is, this happens in so many people, so many cases where we are given this sentence and then we just take it and run with it, and we never allow ourselves to have any kind of fighting chance mentally. And then of course our body doesn't if we don't mentally. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Welcome.
For anyone who wanted to work with you, find out more, where can people connect with you?
My website is brentwebb.com.
Mhm.
So you can take a look on there. One thing, I did put together a book that's 5 steps to the perfect mindset. We're not selling it. We're not selling anything there. But if your listeners, watchers want a copy, they
Yeah.
can go to successsecrets.net and you can download a free copy there. But
Awesome.
if it's for everybody, no matter where you are in your journey, but especially for people who are just starting, it's going to give you the 5 things you can do right now to start putting yourself in the right mindset
Mhm.
to tackle whatever it is. I mean, like I said, I've been through cancer. I became a vegan 6 months ago. And if you told me
Oh,
that
wow.
when I was a kid, there
Yeah.
would have been no way. But again, it's a mind thing. Each
Yeah.
thing I worked through, from addiction to I mean, I used to drink a bottle of vodka a day back in my touring days, got rid of that, smoking, all of that. Each one was a battle, but I won that battle with my mind.
Mm.
So that's what I want to do for other people. So if you want to copy successsecrets.net, download a free copy, take a look at it, and just start implementing it. Remember that action step. That's all you need to do.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that, and sharing your story too, because to overcome all those things, those are all very complex things to overcome. So that's just a testament to how powerful the mind is and what it can do. So thank
Absolutely.
you. Thank you for coming on. I truly enjoyed this conversation. This has been awesome. And for anyone listening, please subscribe to the channel. Please leave any questions, comments, reviews. We'll be happy to answer those for you. And thank you so much again, Brent, for coming on today.
It has been my pleasure. I really had a great time.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for spending your precious time to listen to this episode of Rewiring Health. My mission is to inspire hope and healing through science-backed practices. If you found value in this, please share with 3 people and leave a review. By doing so, this message can be spread to those who need to hear it most. Also, to get updates on the most recent episodes, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for being part of this community, and I am forever grateful for you.